A psychopath cannot be treated. There's no way they can be treated or cured. And that's why I delved into this, because our societies are being run by psychopaths. Look at the politicians, look at the corporate leaders, look at the media people. All these people who have no empathy, no regrets, who have no human characteristics. That is important to understand. Because you can't go out there and say, oh, I feel so sorry for these people. They're being corrupted because they got into these positions of power. No, they were psychopaths. And they got into these positions because they were psychopaths all along. You cannot trust them. There's no way. There's no way.
And we are live. Good evening from Denmark to all over the world where you are joining us. I have Andrew with me here, and I am so excited. I so look forward to hear what he has to tell about the situation for Reiner. This is live stream number 2 on Free Reiner Fuellmich. So I will welcome Andrew, and please, Andrew, join the stage here. Hi, my dear friend. How are you doing?
I'm good, and more importantly, the good news is that Reiner's in good spirits, and he's in fighting spirits, considering his over 2-year incarceration now in basically high security prison.
That is really, really great news, Andrew. Thank you so much. I suppose that I'm not the only one who say that I've been really, really worried, and I've been quite nervous all day while you were in there. Tell us a little bit more how it was. How did it went about security? How did it went with, what did you experience in there?
I would say it was actually very similar to a visit I had last year earlier in the year to Tommy Robinson, who was also in a high security prison. So the routine is the same. You show your ID that you're on the list for a visit. There were 3 of us visiting today, and you go through security. You have to go through basically an airport type scanning system, and eventually you're in a waiting room, and then you get led into the meeting room. And Reiner's obviously in his prison fatigues. There was only one other prisoner having visitors in the room, and you're watched by guards the whole time. 2 guards are watching and probably listening to everything you're saying. So Reiner's in surprisingly good spirits. Obviously, he does look tired. I think it's clearly obviously aged him. But he's setting up a new, he's having some additions to his legal team, which is excellent. And he's very confident. His appeal is lodged, and he's waiting to hear on that. Unfortunately, he had at this prison he's had far better treatment than he had at Roscoff before. So he's been at Bremervoorde for since May, so 6 months. He did have very good communication privileges, that he could speak to anyone, and he could use the phone. There's been some complaints, and he's had that taken away. The complaints would appear to be spurious, and perhaps not even from the person that claims that the complaint is from. He's hoping to get those privileges back in the next fortnight. And also he's going to lodge a complaint with the authorities about the amount of time that he's been held in prison prior to his hearing. And obviously that all diminishes his ability to make his case, to get the witnesses and get the statements done, because he's only actually currently allowed to speak to his wife, Inga, twice for 20 minutes a week. That's all the communication he's being allowed, which clearly that doesn't allow him to mobilize the legal team and get everything sorted for his legal case.
So the 20 minutes time twice a week, that is in total what he's allowed to have a phone call?
And only to his wife, not to anybody else.
Okay, so what about his communication with his legal team? How does he do that? Are they going to visit him every time, or are they able to talk on the phone?
They're not able to talk on the phone at the moment. He's hoping to get that re-established very, very shortly.
Wow, that is really awful. It's just unbelievably awful. Oh man, okay.
But
Okay.
his general treatment, he's not in solitary confinement, so he is actually able to interact with the other prisoners, because obviously he was held in solitary confinement for 18 months, and that is a form of torture. It's completely unnecessary, given the accusations against him of embezzling and fraud, which I believe are completely spurious. We're in strange times, and people's access to justice and human rights are being violated. And my point would be that if we tolerate one person's human rights, liberties being violated, we're all diminished. And if we don't make a stand and sort out Reiner's situation, we could all be facing this in due course. It's not something we can brush under the carpet, and we all know really why Reiner is in the situation he's in. That's because he's a very good lawyer. He's got a track record of taking on the government and big corporations, and he was doing that over the COVID debacle and the vaccine harms, and that was uncomfortable for the establishment, which is why he was abducted from Mexico, separated from his wife, and that's why he's been incarcerated. He's a political prisoner. I think the answer is going to be a political answer. What we need is people across Europe to lobby their politicians, raise awareness of Reiner's situation, and bring pressure to bear, political pressure to bear, for his appeal to be heard and for him to be released from incarceration. What I can share with your viewers is that we're having an assault on our judicial system in the UK. I'm well aware from an insider that the most unpopular Prime Minister we've ever had in the UK, Keir Starmer, who is actually a lawyer and supposedly a human rights lawyer at that, is planning it's not announced it yet, but he is going to announce that he's seeking to end the great British institution of trial by jury, in which case all the hearings he wants to be heard by judges. We know that they've been politicised, and that will be the end of the British justice system, where under common law, every English man and woman has a right to be heard by a jury of their peers. And he'll sell that on the basis that it'll be more efficient, and we've got a big judicial backlog of cases following on from the pandemic, and this is all in place for another huge assault on our justice system and its transparency.
So what you're saying, Andrew, is that Keir Starmer, he wants to take away the trials before
by jury, and just have judges deciding who's guilty and who's not.
Wow. So this is a global coup d'etat, as soft powers that we are up against, soft powers in the sense
the reason I came over to Germany, and it's been 48 hours of traveling effectively from Leicestershire to London, to fly over 4 trains to get to Bremervoorde and the same back, is because I don't want people to forget about prisoners like Reiner Fuellmich. We have in England, in our old castles, they have something called an oubliette, which is a French word, which is an oubliette is the French word for to forget. And it's where they used to put people in the dungeons to forget them. Well, I'm not happy for Reiner Fuellmich to be forgotten. He's done sterling work. He's one of the first people to wake up to what was being perpetrated against the world. He spoke out bravely, as he spoke out about the emissions scandal that he uncovered years ago, and that wouldn't have endeared him to the authorities. They know he's a powerful speaker with very good arguments, and what we're seeing is political persecution for his views and undermining of human rights, and that undermines, as I said, all of our liberties and human rights, and I don't like to see that, and we need to raise awareness across Europe. And it's interesting you mentioned that you've got a Canadian politician. there's some leverage we can introduce. Susan Stansfield visited from Canada, and she's well aware that Canada is now signing a deal with Germany for energy. Obviously, with the NATO destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, they've cut the gas supply from Russia. That's basically put €1 trillion a year of cost onto the German economy, which is forcing it to struggle. They're now desperate for energy, lithium, hydrogen, and other, and also rare earth metals from Canada. And we think that putting pressure on the Canadian government, and Reiner has many supporters, millions of supporters in Canada. We put pressure on the Carney government in Canada and make Reiner's situation an issue. That can, when Germany need those resources from Canada, the Canadian people will only be willing to release them if they see justice for Reiner.
For some reason, still, some people still haven't figured out what he actually has been accused of, and the not only unfair but also unlawful trial. The entire case is just unlawful. It's devastating to look at. If we accept that in a society, in the international society, we have completely lost. So we will not forget. Absolutely not, Andrew. And I'm so glad that you're here. I want to ask you, what did Reiner tell you about the state of his appeal case? Can you inform us about that?
It's filed, and it's
is
waiting.
filed.
Yes, it's filed and waiting to be dealt with. I mean, we can't go through the whole case, but I mean, it is completely spurious. And what happened about Reiner's property being handed over to one of his accusers, where the consideration for the house was far in excess of the sum that was in dispute anyway, is criminal in itself, quite honestly. So Reiner's lost his house over this, and any debt there might have been at loan was repaid with enormous, by about 50% more from the sale of his house. So that's not unusual. I mean, effectively, the government did very similar thing to me in the UK.
Yeah,
it seems to be what happens. I mean, as soon as you speak out against the narrative, I notice you start becoming very unlucky, especially in legal cases.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Here in Denmark, not just personally, but in general, you start to become unlucky. It shows the mind control that Dr. Reiner Fuellmich, he also exposed during all of his 400 plus interviews. And we actually have Paul with us here. He's joining us on stage, and I'll let him in now. Paul is a part of Reiner's team. So welcome, Paul, to the live stream Together for Reiner. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Malue, and good evening, Andrew and Grant. Nice to see you both.
Hi, Paul.
Paul, you must be excited to hear what Andrew is telling about his visit for Reiner in the prison today, that he was strong in spirit. What is your thought about what Andrew has been telling us?
Yes, it's very reassuring to hear that news. Andrew, you must be exhausted. I've heard a little bit about your trip with the trains and the time it took you. But I mean, can I just congratulate you and just say thank you so much for doing that. It means so much to so many people following, Reiner's, narrative of being incarcerated now for over 2 years. You're just incredible to have made that trip. We really appreciate it, and nobody's going to forget it. So thanks for doing that on behalf of ICIC, and that's Reiner's team, and all friends and supporters.
Unfortunately, in the German railway system, the good lady at the charming young lady at Hamburg Station's Information Bureau, she gave me there's something called a Fahrplan Ausfunkt, which is the planner. That showed me all the platforms and all the trains, all the 4 times I had to change to get across to. Without that, I would not have made it, I can promise you.
And in a sense, you know, back to Reiner Fuellmich, his stand for truth is a part of what we actually need in relation to the core values and the building blocks of the country, which is back to Andrew's point, because those, you know, it's Christian values that elevate truth, and we don't have justice unless truth precedes it. And that's why I'm on here. That's why I celebrate what you're doing here in terms of Reiner Fuellmich and his work, because he was a truth bringer internationally to the world at a very dark time. And so I will re-engage and fold. I wasn't aware actually of the full details of what's happened in the last 2 years, but I'll re-engage that into my narrative in terms of the free and good people of the world, because we actually really need to connect and interconnect in terms of these strategies and agendas, because the darkness loses. Darkness is going to lose.